This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.
Good night, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for March 16, 2023. And in the news tonight, taxi driver shot dead on Washington Boulevard traffic pileup. The police have cordoned off a section of Washington Boulevard in St. Andrew where a taxi driver was fatally shot inside his vehicle on Thursday afternoon. Details are not yet available as the police on the scene await the arrival of detectives and the crime investigators. However, reports from onlookers are that 3 men ran from the back of the taxi shortly after explosions were heard. The explosions were not loud, so we were not sure it was gunshots. It was when I saw the 3 men run from outside the car I knew something happened, said a motorist who was at the scene. As a result, a major traffic jam is now on Washington Boulevard, heading towards 6 miles and on the neighboring Elma Crescent. Correctional officer charged for 2020 death in custody. A member of the Department of Correctional Services, Correctional Officer Andre Morris, was today placed before the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court to answer to the charge of murder. The charge was as a result of an investigation by the Independent Commission of Investigations and a ruling by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Morris was charged in relation to the death in custody of Garrett Anthony Brown, also known as Darren Brown, at the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center on July 4, 2020. It was reported that there was an altercation between Morris and the now deceased, resulting in the correctional officer striking Brown with a baton. Morris was offered bail in the sum of $500,000 with 3 sureties and reporting conditions. A mention date was set for May 16, 2023. Businessman freed of murder charge. Businessman Duan Lin, who was charged with the murder of one of his employees in March 2017, was freed in the St. Catherine Circuit Court last week after the prosecutors conceded that they were unable to successfully mount a case against him. The court was also informed that the witnesses could not be located. It was alleged that 48-year-old Lin used a knife to stab Raymond McDonald after they had a dispute over the care of the canteen, which Lin operates at the Jamaica Urban Transit Company in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. The prosecution had alleged that during the heated argument, McDonald was stabbed in the chest. 2 of Lin's employees who claimed to have witnessed the incident gave different versions as to how the stabbing took place. Lin, who was represented by King's Counsel Peter Champagny, had maintained that he acted in self-defense. The court was told that the witnesses could not be located. Justice Bertram Morrison, in response to the disclosures from the prosecution, told Lin, who was on bail, that he was free to go. JDF soldier officer resigns over allegations of sexual harassment. The Jamaica Defense Force says it has concluded an investigation into allegations of sexual harassment by a senior officer, which was prompted by an official report made by a female service member in February regarding inappropriate conduct by the officer. An immediate investigation was launched that has since revealed that the senior officer conducted himself in a manner contrary to the Defense Act. Disciplinary proceedings were initiated against the senior officer, who has subsequently tendered his resignation, the JDF said in a press release on Thursday. The release stated that the investigation also recommended disciplinary action for other service members who had knowledge of the allegation but failed to provide a report, which is required according to force policies. It also noted that the Chief of Defense Staff accepted the resignation of the senior officer on Monday, March 13, 2023. The JDF reiterates its zero tolerance for actions that are in breach of the Defense Act and the force policies, and continues to implore service members and the civilians who are aware of any breach to use the approved processes to report them, the JDF said. Finance Minister expected to address some concerns of immigration officers. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark has reportedly committed to providing a response to some of the grouses of immigration officers by Friday, following a meeting with the National Workers Union on Wednesday. NWU General Secretary Granville Valentine says that the update on what he calls low-hanging fruits is expected in time for Friday's scheduled meeting at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. The Labor Ministry requested that the union and the management of the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency return to its offices to get a progress report on the negotiations. This request came after immigration officers stayed off the job for a day and a half to protest the slow pace in addressing their concerns. Mr. Valentine said some headway was made during Wednesday's meeting, which also involved PICA. He said the workers will be paid as well as reimbursed for monies that were due to them.
The workers at the immigration at PICA will be paid as soon as the finalization and implementation. Those implementation should be stayed. Those implementation of instructed by circulars should not affect these workers, and as a result, we are looking at the changes taking place to ensure that these workers who are affected, one, to be reimbursed for the period that they have been deducting and not implementing things like traveling upkeep in the manner as before. This is unethical of any government institution to be doing that to any worker in Jamaica. For example, we are reliably advised that these workers are working in clear vacancies. This is unfair, unjust, and unethical, and this must be stopped now. And we call on the minister and the permanent secretary, who is the chief immigration officer, to intervene with urgency. It cannot be that workers has to strike and protest before things are so clear, which is a breach of the laws of Jamaica, before something is done.
Escapee from Halfway Tree Police lockup back in custody. Kiswain Foot, the man who escaped from Halfway Tree Police lockup earlier this month, is back in custody and is to reappear in court on May 12. Foot was further remanded when he appeared in the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court on Thursday. It is reported that the prisoner, who was awaiting trial for robbery, climbed atop the roof of the lockup, jumped onto the compound of a nearby high school, and made his escape. He was subsequently captured. Woman sentenced to life in prison for stabbing death of ex-boyfriend. Norma Lynn Dawes, the woman who was found guilty of the stabbing death of her ex-boyfriend O'Shane Coley during a domestic dispute in 2019, has been sentenced to life imprisonment. Dawes is to serve 15 years before she is eligible for parole. She was found guilty of murder by Justice Leighton Pusey following a judge-alone trial in the Home Circuit Court last December. During the trial, the court was told that Dawes and Coley were involved in an on and off relationship characterized by verbal and physical abuse. Coley was one of 3 men who in 2017 had absconded bail during trial on murder charges but were sentenced in their absence to life imprisonment. According to evidence led by the prosecution on March 8, 2019, Dawes allegedly barricaded herself in her room but was attacked by her ex-boyfriend, who gained entry through a window.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.